Do you have an issue with that, sir? Because that's actually Garden Home right there. It's in the Garden Home right off of...
I have an issue with the whole stupid redevelopment of our area, which is apparently promoted by the city of Portland. So why are you continuing to try to exploit me to redevelop my property for who knows what, and something that nobody can probably afford, not me, surely, so quit contacting me!
And do you think yelling at me will solve anything?
What?
Do you think yelling at me will solve anything, sir? I will gladly take you off of our mailing list.
But I'm angry at that stupid city of Portland and its stupid city taxes, and they would move to Washington if I could.
Well, I think you're more angry about other things than just that, sir. I think you have a lot of anger issues.
I'm not angry. Well, I am angry. Why does the city of Portland and you try to redevelop properties for people who can't afford them? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here, sir.
And my taxes are now $4,711.09 a year.
Well, we don't control what the city of
Yeah, I
Portland
know you
does.
don't. But why don't you at least build something that's affordable for anybody?
And I understand that. I mean, I understand that things are
So
getting
take
outpriced.
me off your goddamn mail list at least.
I will, because I would rather not have these type of phone calls, but it's been lovely, so I hope you have a wonderful day, sir.
I won't have a wonderful day.
Well,
Anytime in the future, goddamn you.
well, you have a great day, sir. Don't forget to
Fuck
vote.
you.
Don't forget to vote. Bye.
What?
I've paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game, so I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge, huge fan. Having this support's huge, so I'm grateful for that.
What is up, everybody out there in listener land? This is episode 235. You believe that? 235 episodes of the Real Dealz podcast. That's Dealz with a Z. And of course, I'm your host, Tucker Merrihew. I want to thank you guys for joining me for what will be a banger of an episode. You guys are going to really, really enjoy this one. I have an interview this week. As I've been mentioning, I'm going to kind of go back and forth between you, me, and the microphone episodes and bringing on a guest to the show. And I've got a guest this week that I know you guys are going to really, really enjoy. This individual has got a group on Facebook called Roughneck to Real Estate. And to be honest with you, I think he's a genius marketer in a lot of aspects. He does rub some people maybe the wrong way just because of language or the way that he puts things out there on Facebook. But the reality is that he's a solid guy. And he's a really, really smart dude. And as I talked to him about in the interview, he may be having a podcast coming out soon, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. He's a very interesting mix of what you'll see and what you get. And I think it's a fantastic mixture. And ultimately, what he shares with us on this show, I think you guys are really going to enjoy, because it's about building a business that's not necessarily a flipping business. It's a business about building a portfolio of cash flowing assets and managing that portfolio in Texas. So I know you guys are going to enjoy this show thoroughly. The interview is with Mr. Roughneck to Real Estate himself, Corey Thompson. So we'll get into that here in just a second. Now, before we get into all that, a couple things I want to talk about housekeeping wise. Number one is our Driving for Dollars app. Folks, if you have not downloaded it, whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you either go to the iTunes Store or you go to the Google Play Store. It's free $99 to download. So you get a free download and you get a 5-property free trial. That's it. It's free. You can take it for a test drive. Doesn't cost you 1 red cent. Now, if you like what you like, which I know you will, then all you got to do is pay us $19.99 a month, and with that, you get unlimited data that gives you all the information that you need in order to market to homeowners all over the entire country and build your business off of. I did not know it ahead of time, but Corey said that he uses the app a ton, and it's transformed his business, and we use it every single week here in our own business, and it's basically been the foundation under which we have built our entire business, which is custom driving for dollars lists that we built all over town, and then we market to those lists in a variety of different ways. So if you have not already, make sure that you go download it. It's free. And then, of course, you get the phone number of the individual who owns the property as part of the data. If you're not sending out ringless voicemails or cold calling those people, you should. If you're into ringless voicemails or text blasting, check out episode 225. We use Roar for our ringless voicemails. They have an amazing system, and we've been using them for a long time now, and we have no complaints whatsoever, and it's just a tremendous system that they continue to improve upon, and you can get some great results with that. So if you have not already, go check out that episode or check out the show notes, and you can get a link to our promo page for Roar. Now, one other thing I want to mention with the app, man, I tell you what, we have been inundated with people trying to basically do trademark infringement. And, you know, there was this big thing going around and it got overturned, which was a good thing because there was a trademark on We Buy Houses, right? And so that phrase, we supposedly could not use that phrase in any of our marketing anywhere or we'd be threatened to be sued. And one of our past guests on this show actually managed to get that overturned, which was a tremendous thing. That was a case where trademarks were used in the wrong way. In our case, we have trademarked the Driving for Dollars app with anything that has to do with apps, right? Or online usage service. And so I can't tell you how many people we've had that have basically tried to rip off the exact same thing that we built and name it the exact same thing. And then we have to send them cease and desist letters from our trademark attorney, and they apologize immediately and they change the name or they take down the app. Well, we had to send out 2 more this week, one of which to a new company that had basically named it the exact same name, which obviously they'll have to change. But number 2 is a rather large publication that took sponsorship dollars from this company and then blasted that out to their entire, we'll call it viewer base or subscription base. So 2 more cease and desist letters sent out this week. It's like, I don't want to be an asshole, people. I really don't. But just make sure that if you're going to build a product, you're not infringing upon trademarks when you do it. I don't want to be the We Buy Houses guy. That's not our intent. But as it turns out, apparently nobody likes to check on trademarks before they dump a whole ton of money into building out a technology. So anyway, just a little update for you guys. A little bit of sideshow Bob action, we'll call it. A little bit of entertainment, but 2 more trademark infringement cease and desist went out this week, and hopefully they can come up with a little better name. If they're going to knock off our technology, at least come up with a different name for it. One other thing that I wanted to mention is our Deal Finders Academy and our DFA Launchpad. Those are our 2 flagship membership coaching programs. If you guys are interested in joining, the DFA Launchpad is for those of you that are at the beginning of your real estate investing journey to kind of give you the tools and connection to my team to kind of help you get off the ground. The DFA is for those of you that have a more built-out business that want to be a part of a community of 120 some odd people from around the country who have tremendous businesses doing awesome things in virtually every major metro market across the entire country. Reach out to us. We'd love to see if we have space in the DFA for you, given we don't have, we don't like to stack people on top of each other. So as long as we don't have overlap, we'd love to make you a part of that community. So reach out to us and we'll see if we can fit you in. That's it for the housekeeping items. A couple of things that I want to mention real quick because this is a long show with Corey and I know you guys are going to dig it. What's up with me and TTM over the course of the past week? Well, the first thing is we closed on a new house yesterday, and this is going to be a wholesale deal for us, I think. We're going to do a very, very light rehab. I don't even know how much of a rehab, honestly, until we walk through it at the end of the week. The seller's going to be out. They lived in the house for a very long time. It's dated, but very livable, and we may just do some light paint and carpet and put it back to market. We'll have to see, but it's going to be a tremendous value play that we're putting out to market. Kind of talked about this in one of the previous episodes where the market's shifting a little bit, and so in this particular case, we're going to put this house back out to market at a tremendous value to the retail market. A livable product with a lot of value, and it should move quickly. So we closed on that yesterday, and we're going to give the sellers a couple of days to get their stuff out, and we'll be taking it over here towards the end of the week, and we'll be putting that thing back up on the market just as soon as we can. Other than that, we got a ton of construction going on right now. A lot of houses. We're going to be finishing up, I think, 3 houses here in October that we'll be putting on the market, another one closing. So altogether, we've got, about $4 million, $4.5 million worth of capital coming back in over the next, we'll call it 60 days. So Q4 looks like it's going to be a big quarter for us on top of everything else that we're looking at. We've had a ton of leads come in lately. I think the market softening just slightly, or time of year, has really increased lead flow here for us. We're not doing anything differently than we've done before, but it's interesting how lead flow kind of ebbs and flows no matter what you do. I mean, you can always pump it up a little bit, but deal flow and lead flow in this business, it's predictably unpredictable in terms of when the clumps or batches will come in. They always come in if you consistently market, but it's just when they come in. So we're in kind of one of those periods right now where we got a lot of leads to look at. We've been looking at a lot of opportunities, and that's part of the interview here with Corey. We talk about opportunity management. So I'm trying to do the best that I can to identify the next best round of opportunities for that $4+ million worth of capital that we'll probably turn it over, and as we head towards the end of this year. And where do I redeploy that as we head into 2019, given where we're at in the market cycle? So that's my big challenge, but that's what my job is here at the company. So I got to figure all that out. And then last but not least, one of the properties that we put on the market, man, we bought it from this crazy woman, and she keeps pestering me today again about wanting the front door for the house that she bought. And for those of you guys that don't know, if you take a front door, door has to have a jamb, and it's like a funky sized door. So if you're taking a door without the jamb, now you got to make a custom jamb for a door that you have, but she doesn't own another house. So she's basically taking the door for the sake of taking the door to eventually have to build a custom jamb to put it in a house that she doesn't have. So she's just crazy is really what it comes down to. And so I've been debating back and forth on how do you deal with this kind of crazy. Do you just go radio silence on the text messages, because that's how she's been hitting me up? Or do you hit them back with a very stern, you're out of your mind and I was never going to give you the doors, so, leave me alone. So I don't know. We'll see. I've been talking to Chris. He thinks I should go with the latter. I've been kind of leaning towards the former, but we'll see. I think it needs to be addressed either way. But hey, that's the fun stuff that you deal with when you deal with a lot of these crazy people out there in the trenches. When you buy problems, and you buy problem houses, and you buy them from problem people, those problems don't always go away once you buy them, that's for sure, and especially in this case. So anyway, I'll keep you guys posted about the front door saga. But without further ado, I don't want to take up too much more time. I want to get into this week's episode, because I know you guys are going to dig it. All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did. All right, everybody out there in listener land, I have a special guest for you this week. I have Mr. Roughneck to real estate investor himself, the man, the myth, the maybe marketing genius, Corey Thompson. What's up, Corey?
Not much. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, although we don't have our 74 degrees and sunny, which we had yesterday. We are transitioning to fall, and I've got crap falling all over my yard because of that. But looked like you guys were wearing shorts and T-shirts and still have some nice warm sunshine down there in Texas yesterday at your golf tournament.
Dude, it's really nice right now. This is the best time of year to be in Texas. It's something I really enjoy, fall here, because it finally isn't 8,000 degrees. So we've got about another 2 weeks of this, and then it gets really weird.
Yeah, well, being in the Pacific Northwest pretty much my whole life, we get rain for 9 months out of the year, and then we get 3 months of amazing sunshine, and so we're transitioning back to that shit they call rain for 9 months, but we're in that weird transition phase. But that aside, let's take this to figuring out a little bit more about who is Corey Thompson. I don't know a whole lot about your story. I'm not really sure, at what point you got into real estate and how that all works. So I don't know, maybe lay it out for me and let's give our listeners as well kind of what that looked like.
Well, I worked in the oil field for about 13 years, plus or minus, and I got laid off one day, and my business partner reached out to me. He wanted to buy some rent houses. His dad had passed away, and he had to try to figure out how to get his mom's IRA to pay her bills. So he'd been doing some research on real estate investing. He figured out that rental properties would be a good vehicle, and he brought me in to kind of try to find some property, something to do while I was laid off, and it grew into something way different. And there's a lot of credit. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs in that, of course, but now I think we're sitting at 190 doors. We have another 75 under contract, actually more than that. We've got right at 100 under contract. We've got another mobile home park we're closing on that I always forget about because it's owner finance and it's really easy. But
just forget about those 100 doors, right? Just, back in mind, right?
I forget about 25 of them because we're buying a $91,000 NOI for $300,000 owner finance with $55,000 down. So it's the cash on cash return is like 120% or something in the first year. So it's crazy. It's really hard for me to, kind of quantify how our business has became what it is. It's just always kind of going towards the path of least resistance. And survival mode the whole time. You're always, it's like you don't know what to do, so you just do stuff. But you have to make money, so you're always okay. What this morning's going to pay me $1? Okay, I'm going to do that. And it's kind of built a system because I didn't know anything about any of this. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about technology. I knew nothing about any of that stuff. But I knew that I had to make money to pay my mortgage and to keep my daughter fed and all that, which eventually I ended up moving into an RV to escape all those bills. And from there, it's, I've made a lot of sacrifices. But this last year of growth, we had 30 rentals in March. We have 190 now. So you can kind of see how that pays off. Now, I think a lot of people do it for a month, and when they don't have 1,000 doors, they're like, oh, well, I'm out of this. That's not really my story. We beat our head against the wall for a long time, which is kind of funny that me and you met that way because I had no idea, you're in my Facebook group, and I had no idea that the Driving for Dollars guy was in my Facebook group. That app, seriously, it changed our entire business. It gave me so much time back to go do other things that I was like shocked whenever you spoke up. I was like, holy crap, that guy's in here. I'm acting a little crazy in here. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll be honest, you're entertaining as hell. The reason why I kind of like you, even though we're just meeting each other, is because real estate by nature, it's boring, right? It's kind of a boring deal, right? So you got to make it entertaining. You got to spice it up a little bit. But no, I appreciate you saying that. The app is, and you made a couple comments about loaning out some of that script money for you, and I wish I could, but the app world is like a giant ex-wife that you've got to pay a shitload of alimony to for a very long amount of time until she gets remarried, at which point it's a fantastic day and you don't have to pay it anymore, but she never gets remarried. And so that's kind of the world of app building until you get your user base up to a certain point, and then it's, from there it's a little more self-sustaining. But it was a huge undertaking to build that thing. We got scammed The initial build we got scammed for 70 grand by a guy that basically built it. He came up here. We believed he could do it. He did it, but it was the end product was basically, it did what it was supposed to do, but in a very glitchy kind of way. So we then had to start all over with the guy that built Rent.com's app. And he's been a fantastic guy to work with, very expensive guy to work with, but we learned a very expensive lesson on the front end. But I'm glad to hear that it's helped your guys' business. We're continuing to improve it, but it's definitely not a cheap endeavor. And hopefully someday when we'll put it back on the black, I'll have some money to loan you guys.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, we do the whole state of Texas. I don't know. There's different softwares out there. AppFolio being our property management software, you have to get to 50 doors to be able to use it, or you have to pay for 50 doors, I guess is the way to word that. Right. It absolutely changed our business from a leasing point of view because of how easy it makes it to lease a vacancy. We're stationed out of Groesbeck, Texas. Y'all probably don't know a lot about Texas, but our properties, we have property in Pecos, which is west. It's about 160 miles east of El Paso. We've got stuff up by Amarillo, which is about as far north as you can go. And we've
How
got
big of a geographic area are you guys investing in? It sounds like it's pretty wide.
It's the entire state of Texas,
wow.
Literally, because we understand Texas real estate laws. The only reason why we haven't stepped across the border is I don't want to have to learn a new set of eviction notices, and there's a ton of opportunity here. Right. So that technology is the reason why we were able to scale. Now, going back to y'all's app, I mean, and this ain't, I don't think you have this podcast to plug it, but I'm going to plug it for you because it's been that impressive for me. I've been to Van Horn, Texas. If you don't know where Van Horn, Texas is, it's a spot on the map. There's about to be an oil boom out there. I was dropping pins in Van Horn, Texas and getting phone numbers and getting on the phone with people that owned real estate there. And there's 11 people in the whole place. You know what I mean? When I first got it, I'm like, oh, this is only going to work in metropolitan areas. That is not the case. It works just about anywhere. I mean, if it can get an address, if it can get a physical address, it works. If it says, 1100 to 1105 Main Street, sometimes it doesn't pull that data. But dude, your app has been a game changer changing for us. And that's a lot of, that's not all I want to talk about today, but it's had a lot to do with why we were able to scale from 30 doors to 190 doors. That, along with AppFolio, there's been just so much power in that technology compared to 3 years ago when I didn't know anything and I was just having to go to the county's website, figure out the information, get it, and then go do something with that on my own time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's not to continue to plug the app, but the fact that you used it says a lot in terms of how you segmented and regimented your business so that you had a complete purpose in what you were looking for, right? Because I think that's the problem that a lot of people have, and the reason why they ultimately don't succeed is they don't know exactly what they're looking for. And so as people use the app, it starts to make it clearer and clearer what exactly they're looking for. And you guys have had some unprecedented, hockey stick type growth in terms of the amount of doors that you guys have under management at this point in ownership. I mean, that's just crazy. But just out of curiosity, on we'll call it the tenant management eviction side, I'm assuming Texas is a little bit more landlord friendly than out here in Oregon.
Extremely, extremely. We've lost one eviction case due to not getting estoppels. I don't even know if I said that word right. That's how little I care about stuff like that. But we didn't get them, and this guy made up a contract that he was there to do maintenance for the previous owner, and we didn't give. This is the stupidest thing I ever heard. We gave a 30-day notice for this guy to vacate. We should have gave a 3-day notice. We gave him a 30-day notice, and so the judge ruled on his behalf. So we had to refile with a 3-day notice, and that's the only time we've ever lost an eviction. We take over some really rough properties, have squatters in them and stuff like that, and we go to court and kick them out. And, it's kind of funny. It's always funny for me how somebody will be like, oh, this property's a piece of junk. It doesn't have hot water. The water hadn't been turned on in forever, yada, yada, yada. Yet you're in court fighting to stay there, pointing me as a bad landlord when I just bought the place. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, hey, he didn't fix our hot water heater. Well, they've not paid us a drop of rent in 3 months that we've owned it. So, of course we haven't fixed our hot water heater. We just want them out. So it's very landlord friendly, very, very landlord friendly. But you do have to get your writ of possession. If you do not get that writ and you start moving somebody's love seat out, they'll sue you and can oftentimes win. But as long as you do everything by the book, you have no problems whatsoever. You can get somebody out of a house in 20 days or less.
Yeah, that's here in Portland specifically. It's when you inherit long-term tenants, it is a huge pain in the ass. And we've had a few old school kind of crusty landlords try and sell us deals lately. And they've wanted to basically just sell us their problem tenant. And that problem tenant takes, we'll call it 3 months at a minimum to vacate. But then we also have to pay for their moving expenses to get them out.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And everybody thinks that because we were able to buy the property, we've got infinite amounts of money and we should just be giving it to them, and we're doing them a disservice by displacing them, even though the property they lived in, nobody's done shit to it for God knows how long, and it's just an eyesore of the neighborhood. So it's a real tough place to be a landlord, which is why there's a lot of people exiting that game, at least in terms of the single family world here in Portland. But it sounds like the landscape down there in Texas is much different and just a much better place to build that type of business, honestly.
Well, and you know what I call that? When you just told me all that, I'm like, that's leverage. I'm going to that seller and I'm just beating him over the head with it. I'm like, yep. Bro, you realize you know what I'm up against. That's why you want to sell. Just let's get this price to an area that it works for both of us, and get it on terms or get it with no money down. You want your price, cool. Give it to me with no money down. I'll take it. I'll pay that price for it. If I don't have to service any debt for the next 9 months while I deal with your problem tenant, you're not getting any money off of it anyways. You'll get paid when we get this thing turned around. Give it to me on terms. That's what I hear when you say that. That's just where my mind goes instantly.
No, that's smart. That's where smart guys' mind go. The last one we dealt with was last week, and actually, no, Chris had a crazy motherfucker that called him yesterday. That was the same type of guy. But so last week we had to sit down with a guy in our office, and we'd said, hey, it was going to be a redevelopment play too, because it was a bigger lot, higher dollar area, had a crappy old house on it, had a tenant that had owned the house at one point. This guy loaned him the money to buy it and then had to basically do a deed in lieu because he wasn't making his payment. So the guy's been there forever, basically thinks that he owns the house even though he's renting the house now. And he wanted to pass this problem of getting rid of this guy on to me. And he said that initially it looked like a good deal because he said he was going to carry a good chunk of the contract. And the only thing we needed to do was do our due diligence on the redevelopment side, because here in Portland, the city straps a bunch of right-of-way improvements on the backs of builders. And so it can ratchet up, $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 real quick. And if you've got to spread those costs over 2 lots, all of a sudden that makes a deal not a deal, right? And so I said, okay, I'll take over your what is going to be a pain in the ass tenant issue, but I've got to have at least a few days to determine how much additional right-of-way improvement costs are going to be put on my back when I go through the redevelopment process. And he said, nope, no due diligence. I want $10,000 today, earnest money, non-refundable or no deal. And so I was like, you know what? Can't do it. See ya. So it's, some of these guys, you think leverage works, and some of them you can't fix crazy is what we've discovered.
Okay. So talking about that, see that's an interesting deal in Portland, cause I see some of the stuff that people are buying and putting out in some of these larger groups, and I'm like, I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled rotten. 91,000 NOI, 300,000 type stuff.
That's crazy numbers, man. I mean, that's amazing.
It's like, and then when I tell people about it, they're like, that doesn't exist. I'm like, well, you've never heard of the town it's in. Even if I told it to you, you might not be able to Google it. So you're afraid of it because you can't do the property management. So what we realized early on was, 1, property managers aren't worth the money. 2, they don't do the things that we need them to do. So we built a property management company. People ask us, what is our company all the time? I'm like, dude, we're a property management company. All of our employees are to help us do property management, not to help us wholesale, not to help us flip, not to do any of that stuff. We built a property management company because it seemed to be the least favorite part of it. Okay. So when you start talking about those 2 lots and how spreading $150,000 in government fees or whatever that is over those 2 lots, I'm sitting here thinking about the deal that I'm trying to fund today, that we're buying a 32-unit apartment complex for $280,000, and that includes the wholesale fee. And The gross rents on that thing will be around 19, 20,000 when we're done with it. It's kind of in a vacant area, but it's vacant right now, but none of the copper's been stolen. I mean, it's basically just needs paint and a little love, and we'll have tenants in there. We're buying that for $250,000. We might have to put $300,000-$400,000 in it to like Taj Mahal it. I'm talking granite, new ACs.
Right. Everything redone.
Everything redone. No deferred maintenance. And sitting there looking at those numbers, but that town has 4,400 people in it, and it's in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And crystal methane is prevalent out there. You know what I mean? The missing link is the property management. The reason why everybody can't do that deal is because they can't manage it.
Right.
And so it worries them and it bottles them up, and they can't figure out how to do it. And so if we get this deal closed, we're getting another 43 doors from this guy. For $600,000, and it's got 10 vacancies right now. It's almost 100% occupied.
Are you guys going to employ an on-site manager for that many units, or are you going to try and manage remotely?
What we do in those situations is we look for contractors during the dress-up phase, right? So we look for local contractors that can come in, do the paint, do the plumbing, do the AC, kind of a handyman type contractor. And when we find him, we normally we use the rehab as like the job interview. And so we'll have 2 or 3 contractors come out and work on that project. And then the one that is the most reliable, the most honest. I don't care about the price. I don't care about any of that. I want the most honest guy. The guy that whenever he sends us a bill, the work's been done and we don't have to check up with him, and we get him to help us with the property management. So if we've got to post an eviction notice because they didn't pay rent, all the rent's collected online, everything's done online, he'll go out and he'll post that eviction notice and say he charges us $15 for that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it ends up coming out cheaper because in those smaller towns, you get long-term tenants that are on a fixed income, can only afford that, and will pay every month. So once you get it stabilized, typically you don't have a lot of turnover. All of our mobile home parks that we've owned for over a year, we've maybe had 3 tenants turn over since the initial fill up. They're all, when we take them over, we got tenants in there that have been there for 12 years.
Mobile home people don't leave. They stick around.
Right. And with these small towns, it's the same thing. Like in a small town, your grandma moves in there, she's on Social Security, and she stays there forever, and that's just what happens. So we've kind of developed this, but the missing link for us early on was the property management, and Appfolio, solved that problem for us. And after that, we're like, dude, we can literally manage anything. And then we grew so fast, we didn't hire employees. Now we've hired 3 employees. And so now we're an actual business. Like I can go home and, you know what I mean? Like
right.
Not have to watch after stuff. And we're actually business owners now. We've transitioned. So it's been an interesting ride for us. But, other people look at it and they're like, man, y'all must have had a lot of money or whatever. Or anybody could do that with access to the private capital y'all have access to. And I'm like, guys, they didn't just fucking write us a check for $2.5 million because we asked for it. We we did a track record that started out with $12,000 houses. We started out flipping $12,000 houses, and we drug that track record into bigger deals and just, wanted to do bigger deals, sought to do bigger deals, and started, putting our energy and effort into that. But then we kept the same lenders, the same private money, and we just kept scaling it up. So we've been fortunate. Like I'm not gonna lie about, how well we've done, but the people that are posing in front of Lambos and shit, I'm just like, guys, that's not the reality. Like if we'll pull 400,000 out of a property, out of a refi here in the next couple of months. It'll be tax-free money. I'm not going to take that and drop it into a fucking Lambo. I'm going to drop it into a reserve account in the bank. So the bank will look at me and say, oh, look, they've got 700 liquid. Let's loan them another 7 million. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh,
that's the stuff that people, it's like that. Anybody that's buying Lambos with their real estate investor money, they're really, I think that's foolishness. Until you're scaled to, $30 million net worth or something like that. Like, I mean, you're you're not doing it the way that I would do it. But that's
no. If you're sitting at like a $1-2 million net worth, you shouldn't be going out buying Lambos. Because I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, right? But the reality is that $1 to $2 million net worth leveraged over or spread over a number of different assets, it's really not that much money. Once you get there and you look back, and it's not like the promised land,
Oh no, I know. And that was the biggest lesson in the last couple of years. I'm like, we look up and it's like you run the equity on your books and you're like, dang, we just turned in a $4.5 million for our little investment company. We turned a $4.5 million equity statement, whatever it is, to the bank, a P&L balance sheet. We're $4.5 million worth of equity on there for just our 1/3 of the company. Looks cool, but I'm sitting here, every day telling people when you're building with debt, you're not using other people's money. You're using bank debt. We use small local community banks, 20-year loans, 6.5% interest. You've got to really, really look at that cash flow. It looks like a lot, but you've got to feed the reserve account a lot more than you feed your own account. And it took a lot of sacrifice. People, take shots at me on the internet all the time, and I'm like, guys, I work for a $1,350 a month salary. I live in a house now. I just now moved into a house that we own and pay all the bills. So, I mean, my total compensation is probably somewhere around $2,500, $2,600 a month now. Our leasing agent makes, $3,000 to $5,000 a month,
Yeah, I mean, that's called entrepreneurship, man. That's called business building, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, and y'all don't get it. We're going to turn over $200,000 worth of flips and assignments and all that, and we're going to take that and we're going to pay off credit lines, we're going to pay off credit cards, we're going to pay off revolving debt with it, and we're going to have another slice that we're going to put into our payroll account now because we got a payroll account, and we want 2 years worth of payroll put back so we never have to lay anybody off. It's not like I'm not going to go out and buy me a new truck overnight because we hit a lick on a deal, So I watch other people, and I'm a student. Like, I'm a student way more than people give me credit for. And I have conversations with people, and as aggressive as we are, I underwrite these deals like I'm talking. That deal right now that I just told you about, the numbers work at $300 a month per door rent. And we're underwriting that deal right before I jumped on this podcast to send it to our lender. And, we're arguing over the amount of the management fee and what it should be, if it's 10% or 6%, and putting together that pro forma to send to them. And anyways, I'm like, guys, look, the numbers work at $300 a month. Like, flat out, the numbers work at $300 a month. We know we're going to get $600. Okay. Do we want to send the lender the $600 for pro forma, or do we want to send them the $300 a month pro forma? I want to send the $300 a month pro forma because I want to show him what a deal this is. You know what I mean? I want him to understand that if we can't rent shit for $300 a month, we're getting out of the business. And anyways, it's just one of those things where as you grow this, you understand more and more what actual equity is, what cash flow really is. It isn't a number like that cash flow. If you're not feeding that reserve account first, it's great to eat on that cash flow at 20 units and have your job still. That works. It doesn't work if this is a business and you have to eat off what this business makes. You have to feed that reserve account, because when a trailer house burns down in the middle of the night and you find out that insurance is worthless, you know what I mean? Now you've got to unask $30,000 to get that unit back going, to get another one in there, whatever. Now you're learning, hey, look, that cash flow of $2,500 a month isn't going to pay back what we just lost for the rest of this year. We had to dump the other properties are now supporting that property, that one burnt down trailer. So that's just a little rant, a little spill right in the middle of the podcast. I hope it makes sense. I hope people are following.
Oh shit money is important, man. Oh shit money is very, very important in this business. And especially as you graduate to being a bigger business owner within this business, because now you have other people's livelihoods that are at stake, not only your own, right? And so when they sign on to, whoever you guys hired to be a part of the property management business, when they sign on with you, they're signing on for stability, right? That's why they sign on. And so not only do you have to create stability for yourself, but you got to create it for them now and moving forward as long as they're with you.
Oh, and it's huge. And being laid off from the oil field, being on the roller coaster of what the oil field is, it's boom, it's feast or famine. That's one of the biggest things why I'm still in real estate, is because it does provide stability. 20 years from now, when all these properties are paid for, I will have a Lambo. I might burn one a week. I might just do donuts in the pasture and light it on fire and double flip the bird to everybody who said I never would. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know what my 50s will look like. If people think I'm crazy now, wait till some of this shit's paid for. Like, y'all don't get it. But that, it's one of those things where I look at it and, I look at the information. People get mad at me all the time because I'm roasting gurus, but I'm like, guys, they're selling you a pipe dream to line their own pockets because they realized how much this shit is work. You know what I mean? They had to sell you on their education to pay their own rent. You know what I mean? It's hard, very difficult to scale to 1,000 doors. You know what I mean? It's a very difficult road. We're hitting a wall now of a lending wall. You know what I mean? We've grew too fast. Yep. Banks are getting nervous. You know what I mean? Yeah,
you got management, then you got lending, you got all these walls that you hit as you continue to grow that you got to kind of figure out how to navigate and power through, right?
Oh yeah, it's like, right now we're sending stuff to the bank this morning on a refi. We started to get some private money turned over, and our bank has always just been good to us, and then they just ask for more information, and we're like, oh man, like, is this going to be our first no on a loan? Are we going to have to bring in a credit partner? Are we going to have to get a personal guarantor on this loan to get it across the finish line, which we've, is our contingency. But right. Then, it's like, okay, so we know we grew this fast this year. We know next year it's going to prove more difficult. So we've got to make better investments on the next turn of the money. And when I say turn of the money, I mean, we've got about $3 million of private capital deployed right now. When we turn that $3 million over and get the next round of properties, they have to be absolute home runs like these apartments that we're doing right now, because we know that we're going to have to sit in that hard money for longer. We know we might have to let those all season for a year instead of 3 months to 6 months like we did the last go around. So that's why we're moving out of mobile home parks and into small apartment complexes, just to get a better asset class and be able to let it season longer.
See, you guys have graduated to what ultimately we become opportunity managers. That's essentially what the business becomes, whether it be, multifamily, single family development, whatever it is. That money turns over, right? We've got about $3.5 million in capital coming in over the next, we'll call it 30 days. And my job is to redeploy $3.5 million in the best opportunities that I can. Same thing you guys are looking at, right? You've got that $3 million coming back in. How is it that I can be the best at my job, which is basically running the ship, and redeploying that money into as close to home runs as I can? And that's really where you gravitate to eventually in this business. Is essentially you're a money manager, number one, but real estate's just kind of the product, but you're an opportunity manager, number two, because you got to manage all the opportunities you're looking at, underwrite them, figure out where's the best place to put it, how does it fit in with our culture and our pipeline of deals or our portfolio. Those are all the things that are probably going through your head.
Oh, dude, 24/7. It's like, it's 24/7. And then, you look at the low hanging fruit, and some days people are like, what's a day off for you look like? And I'm like, it looks like underwriting deals, because I enjoy doing it. I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy looking at them. I enjoy looking at the numbers. I enjoy everything about the process. And so, this past couple of months, we've kind of had to slow down because, it's like, all right, we got to get some of this stuff on bank loans. We know that we need to do that. We don't need to just let these ride on the private money. So we started down that journey in that process, and Corey Thompson don't have a lot to do if he's not underwriting deals. You know what I mean? So I started wholesaling and doing hotels and stuff like that to fill my void up. And everybody's like, well, why wouldn't you go on days off? Me and Emery went down to the beach for a week. We had a good time. It was fun. I did use Driving for Dollars app down there. I called some people, but I'm like, no, I want to be back. I'll just go do single families for a while, and so when you talk about money management, I was like, man, we put 200,000 on the board in wholesale and assignments and hotel deals real quick. And then we're paying off revolving debt, credit lines, stuff like that with the money. And it's going to free us up to do our next round, our own personal, we got our personal portfolio, and then we got our portfolio with our partners. That's the mobile home business. it'll free us up to do another $500,000 worth of personal buy and holds here in our hometown or in Waco, close by, that, those deals that will never sell for any number. So yeah, what you talk about on opportunity is 100% it. 100% the truth.
Let's dive into a little bit about, because here in Portland, it's bananas, like very different landscape in terms of number of investors. Competition is ridiculous. I just went out and looked at a property yesterday that we look at as a one lot redevelopment, tear down one, build one in its place. There was a previous builder, had it under contract, was going to pay way too much, going to try and do 2 lots, but they finally figured out they can't do flag lots because of the restrictions within this particular town that they had no idea. And so we might back clean up. But what I'm getting to is what does the landscape look like in terms of the competition? Because you're all over Texas. And then number 2 is, what is the types of marketing that you guys, rely on to kind of create this consistent pipeline of opportunities to underwrite? What is it that you guys are doing to give yourself so much opportunity to look at?
Okay, so I'll just drop some knowledge bombs. We kind of cross-reference a bunch of lists. So we'll take an eviction list. Whether we can buy that list or we have to go do that list on our own, I think every state has it. I know the U.S. government has it. Freedom of Information request. What that means is, if you fill out the paperwork properly, you can request public information. So we do what's called a water turnoff list. You can go to the city or whatever, if it's got a municipal water, and you can request.
If you're in Texas, don't go request this, right? Because any part of Texas, right?
No. No, I don't care. Like, I don't care because it takes so much work and so much consistency that people are like, why do you give this stuff away from free? That Daniel Chad Moore of Propelio taught this forever. Nobody would listen to it. Nobody would go do the work. But you do a water turnoff list, okay? So when you do it, you get. There's not very many reasons why water gets turned off, right? So there's either a line busted, somebody moved out, or somebody can't afford their water bill, okay? All of which is probably a motivated seller of some sort. You know what I mean? Like, if you just turn the water off because you moved, maybe you got your house listed. Maybe it was a tenant and it's a tired landlord you're going to get a hold of. But the way that you have to do it is you have to request it with all personal information redacted. Well, it doesn't matter. If you get the address, you can use the Driving for Dollars app to drop a pin on it. I've literally done this. Drop the pin on it. I've done this at networking events. I've pulled out your app. I pulled out a water list. I've taken down 5 addresses, had somebody else standing there read me the addresses, dropped them on your app, hit submit, okay? It comes back with a phone number, and I've started calling those people and asking them about that address and set an appointment while standing next to a bunch of newbies. They're like, how do you do this, bro? Now, on the backside of that, you have to submit it, and they're going to reject it, and you might have to threaten them with the attorney general. But now so many people have started doing it in Texas and all the major markets that they have already got the form for you to fill out. So when you call them and be like, hey, I want to do it, they send you over the form, you submit it, and then they send you the list. Now you have to aggregate that list. You've got to take it. So you use a VA and you send them the addresses and they skip trace them for you. Okay. And then you get the information back. And then we do what's called a ringless voicemail. We use Sly Broadcast as our go-to, and we drop ringless voicemails. There's huge debates about whether or not this is legal or not. So I'm not going to advise you on your business. I can only say this. In Texas, it's consumer protection laws, okay? If you're buying a house, that's not a consumer, okay? You are the consumer. Now, if you're trying to offer them a service like list their house, or, if you pose as a wholesaler, as a wholesaling business where I provide service to my clients, if that's the message that you're putting out on the internet, on your website, on everything about how you're fast cash, any condition, if you're branding yourself as that, don't be surprised when somebody sues you and you end up in some sort of trouble or have to go to court and explain yourself. It's yet to happen to us, but my voicemails always cuss in some way or another. You'll never mistake my voicemail for spam. Okay. I've dropped voicemails at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. You'll never mistake a Corey Thompson voicemail for spam. And the goal is on that, you don't, and it's not a mailing list. Don't hit them 5 times in a week because you can. you're going to get yourself in trouble. Just drop a voicemail, take the low-hanging fruit. Don't go drop 40,000 like I did. I hit a big bullet. I did 40,000. Realized I didn't have the back end to do any of the follow-up to actually close any deals. It was fucking insane. But if you do this and you do it consistently, let's say you put a budget aside and you do 1,000 of those a week, okay, you're going to close deals.
Which is cheap, by the way. It's a very cheap way to stimulate conversation.
Oh, yes, it's very cheap. If you do $3,500 worth, if you dedicate $3,500 to this and you can't turn it into $40,000 worth of revenue, then your message, there's other areas you need to work on, because when they call back, you're going to have motivated sellers in there. Now, if you're not good on the phone, I see a lot of people that aren't good on the phone. You know, they blow those leads. If everybody always wants to know, what's the quality of the data I'm getting? I don't care about the quality of data I'm getting. I care about things I can control. I can't improve the quality of the data. Maybe you can, Tucker. You've got some experience with this. I can't. I can only improve the quality of the call that I put back. So whenever I get on the phone and I get too spammy, too businessy, too professional, too whatever, when the conversation shifts and I lose that deal, I look at that moment, okay, well, I started putting too much pressure on them at that moment in time. I should have kept talking about the grandkids. You know what I mean? If I'd have talked about the grandkids longer, I'd have had a lay down. But instead, I got pushy at that moment in time, and this person wanted to sell, and I let them off the hook. Okay? But on the flip side of that, your network is your net worth. You know that person wants to sell, and you know your mistake. So now you give it to your best friend who's in your network and say, hey, bro, this is what talk about her grandkids. She loves talking about the grandkids. And set an appointment and go.
Little good cop, bad cop.
Little good cop, bad cop. But you know that person wants to sell. So if you blow that lead, a lot of people, I used to get down on myself when I blew a lead, but that's because I didn't have the network. You know, I was a solopreneur. Now I've got, like I was telling people the other day, I'm like, burn that lead down. You know what I mean? Take everybody in your network and give them a shot at it and see if you can't get it bought a different way. You know what I mean? And then you call in that favor with that other investor whenever they need it, vice versa. So, that's
good advice. That's great advice. And I think the other real golden nugget that out of that is in your RVMs, and I'm big on this too, is we send two types. One is the unmistakably genuine type, right? You curse or say whatever. It's so not salesy that people would not consider it a sales solicitation call, right? And then Correct. We also, on the other end, we'll do a couple different types. We'll do that, and then we'll do one that's a little bit more branded, but it weaves in some of the elements of the first option so that it sounds as legitimate as possible and like a legitimate inquiry, which it is, because for us, we're very targeted in what we go after. But I think that's if you drop 40,000 that sound like legitimate inquiries, you had a whole lot of shit to follow up with.
We did. So what we did with that was we took those callbacks as opt-ins, and all right, you called us back, so you've opted in, and we did. I don't even know what it's called. The ISV, press 1 for a cash offer, press 2 for whatever, and we dropped the old robot. Now we didn't do anything out of that. We just experimented with it because we had the opportunity. Now, on the flip side, bandit signs, I don't know where you're at and how you feel about this, but bandit signs, if I get really broke, I'm always going to go back to bandit signs. Bandit sign leads, there's a huge difference. The RVMs are good, but they're time vampires. So if you got a lot of time and you're looking to, really dial in, that's great. If you don't have a lot of time, you need to get on bandit signs and bandit signs take a lot of man hours that you put them out in the middle of the night. But what were you going to do in the middle of the night anyways? If you're going to go to the bar, club, whatever, that's stupid. You know what I mean? If you're going to sleep, then you value sleep more than you value your own success. So go out, put out some bandit signs. Those negotiations are the easiest in the entire world. I had a guy call me off a bandit sign. He's like, hey, I got 2 houses. I'm like, yeah. How much you want? $7,000 for 2 houses. Okay. I'm thinking, well, these are shitholes. Go look at it. No, one's lived in and rented for $300 a month. The other one needs a lot of work. Okay, so we bought it. We owner financed it. We got $11,000 down. That's the kind of stuff that's
a crazy deal. from my world, that's like bananas. I can't buy a cardboard box for anywhere. I mean that.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And this was in a town that has 200 people in it. And most people would just turn their nose at it. But it's $7,000. I've literally lost $7,000 in Vegas on a bad roll. You know what I mean? I can go try this one. I can gamble in this way and live with the loss. You know what I mean? If I can live with the $7,000 loss at the dice table, I can live with the $7,000 loss that is 2 houses. You know what I mean? So that deal right there worked out really well for us. Another one like that, we bought a 7-plex. This was the deal that absolutely changed our life, changed our perspective, changed our fucking business model, changed everything. 7-plex call comes in, gross rent's $2,600 a month. 7 houses, we pay all the bill, or 7 doors, we pay all the bills. Lady wants $45,000 for it. 100% occupied. It's zero property management. They fix everything. They never do anything other than pay rent. That is it. We don't never hear from them. When tenants move out, there's one guy in there that moves a buddy in every time somebody moves out, so we never even know the difference.
That's a 2-year payoff. It pays for itself in 2 years. It
pays for itself in 2 years. Not only that, we went to the bank to borrow money against it. They loaned us $120,000 against it.
So it had huge equity and it paid for itself in 2 years.
Yes, it was stupid. We cashed a $78,000 check on the refi of that and put that money in the bank tax free, and it's been paying for itself ever since. We never have to think about it, never have to worry about it. It is 100%. I mean, it's the coolest thing. It's one of the cooler properties I've ever bought. But that's a bandit sign lead. You know what I mean? Bandit sign leads. That's a lot of what they sound like. Hey, I've got a property I want to sell. How much? $30,000. You look at it. You look it up. Holy crap! That property's worth $130,000. Let me go look at this. You know what I mean? So for a newbie, for somebody getting started, that's a lot better. Now, other people try to scale their time, and they've read the 80-20 rule. They've read the 4-hour work week, all that shit, and they're sitting around, I don't know. They sit around with their dick in their hand. I don't know what they're doing. They're like, they're 80-20ing themselves out of a job. Like, you are new. Everything you do is teaching you something. You need to be soaking it all up. If somebody calls you and they've got a property and they want to sell, I don't give a shit if they want $1 million for a snow cone stand in Alaska. Go look at it. Learn from it, because and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, look, you've got a snow cone stand in Alaska and they want to sell it for $1 million, and you negotiate your ass off, but you can't get them down. They want $1 million. Put a fucking contract on it, put you an option fee, pay the man his money, and introduce it to the marketplace. Post it on Facebook, because what you're going to learn is another investor looks at that way different. You know what I mean? It's a snow cone stand in Alaska, but it comes with all the mineral rights, and he knows they're going to drill for oil there. So he pays you $1.5 million. You just made $500,000 on something everybody said wasn't worth the money because you didn't have the vision to see what it was, but somebody else did. And you'll never know that if you don't introduce it to the marketplace. You'll never learn if you don't introduce it to the marketplace. So, when I give that advice, people are like, oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I'm like, guys, there's been so many times in my life.
That's amazing advice. We actually, just sidebar here, the TV deal that we've been flirting with for years now, that's the concept of the show. That's the idea, right? Showing you that there's multiple ways to look at something and value it, right?
Dude, it's vision or circumstance. Like, are you going to live your life in vision, or are you going to live your life in circumstance? Jimbo Fisher, head coach of Texas Aggie, said that in his opening press conference, and I was like, holy shit. That is what's been missing from my life. Like, I live in vision. Like, everybody wants to know why I'm so successful. It's because I don't see what's there. I see what it is going to be. You know what I mean? I look, what is this going to be? But also it takes, it takes a lot to look at a junk house, for $5,000 and say, well, what is this? Well, if I own or finance it at $15,000, you don't feel like you did very good because it's only paying you $200 a month. But where can you get $200 for $5,000 invested? You know what I mean? Maybe you picked up $2,500 down, and now you've only got, $2,000 in it because you paid $500 in closing costs. Anyways, you know what I mean? And now that's paying you. You look at it from a different set of eyes, and you're like, holy shit, I'm an investing son of a bitch. Like these ROIs are insane. But it's every lesson that you learn along the way that pays you going forward. That $12,000 house in Thornton is the reason why I have a partnership with multi-million dollars in equity with one of our partners. He bought a $12,000 house in Thornton from us. We only made $2,000 on it. Changed our entire life. Didn't that day. That day it was just $2,000, and me and Emery got a little grocery money. You know what I mean? But down the road, the execution of that deal all the way across the finish line is why we got to do the next deal, which was 4 mobile homes in Mejia, which was a little $140,000 deal for him. For us, we actually lost money on that deal. But we got to keep the property management on it. We ended up with $5,000 in our own wholesale deal, but got $350 a month for property management fee to keep tenants in it. So, it was a $5,000 investment to make $350. But what it showed was that we could take 4 mobile homes that are just bombed out. Crystal Methany's and had her way with them, and turn them around and then rent them each for $800 a month. So when the biggest deal came up, which is our first mobile home park, we're sitting here with a completely distressed mobile home park that has, 9-10 homes in it for $350,000. And then we end up with $0 invested in it. We ended up with $550,000 in it. The bank loaned us $550,000 out of it, the lesson from the 7-plex that I talked about earlier. $0 invested. And now we get to learn all about property management. We get to learn all about putting back reserves. We get to learn all about, hey, look, that looks like about $6,000-$7,000 a month cash flow, but in reality, it's about $3,500 a month. But it's $0 invested. You know what I mean? So it's like you start putting all that together, and you start putting these pieces together, and you're like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like, I've got to scale even bigger now. This one deal I thought I was going to retire on a mobile home park in Groesbeck, but as it turns out, I've got to get to 1,000 doors before I can think about a day off. Okay, what does that look like? Let's go do it. Let's figure out where those deals are, because we can go anywhere now that we can property manage. So
yeah, which is fantastic. And just to kind of break it down a little bit further for myself and the listeners, in terms of revenue sources for the business. So A, you've got cash flow, right, above any sort of debt service. And then B, you've built in property management fees, right? So you guys are taking revenue in via property management fees. So you kind of have a 2-pronged revenue approach, we'll call it, to building out your portfolio.
And then we don't flip properties because we don't do a lot of work to them, but we do. Wholesaling has become my new love. It's like we've got access to private money now that, we get a deal and we send it to them, and they loan us $10,000 in profits out on the hard money loan, which means all the holding costs are covered, all the debt servicing for the next 2 months or 3 months while it sells. We don't have to come out of money any profit out of pocket any money because we already pulled $10,000 out of it, and then we sell it and we make $50,000-$60,000. That has become my new love. I don't know if I'll ever get married, but if I do, it'll be to wholesaling probably. Like it's that much fun because it takes all of that back end work off of you of having to find a buyer. It's much easier to deal with the title company, buy it and list it with an agent and let her deal with all the BS than it is to try to wholesale it and get all the daisy chainers,
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're buying one. We bought one yesterday. I think we just closed on it, and, people will be out Thursday. We gave them 4 days, whatever, to get their shit together and get out. And we're literally going to clean it out and put it out to market. But here we're doing it because the market's softened a little bit, and we're using wholetailing for those that are livable as a value play, right? We're offering the market value, and it's kind of, we'll call it low-hanging fruit for the dumb money. And, we'll still have a nice margin in between. So
that is the exact thing that, look, I argue this on forums all day long. Where do you want to deal with a sophisticated seller or unsophisticated seller? Okay. Do you want to deal with dumb money or smart money? I know which two I'm picking. You know what I mean? So everybody wants to know, if you're calling a sign that's on the side of the road, you're probably an unsophisticated seller. If you're getting a lead off of a funnel you created on Facebook, you're probably dealing with a sophisticated seller. If you're getting SEO leads, you're probably dealing with a sophisticated seller. They called all your competition too. You know what I mean? You're in a bidding war. So people talk about a lot of things. I'm a student. You know what I mean? I deal with these people. If you go to my Facebook group, Roughneck Real Estate, that you're in, you can see Pocket Cam seller negotiations where I offered a lady $40,000 on a $130,000 house. Okay. And she responded, "Oh, we were only hoping to get 30." And I said, "Well, I'd rather pay 30." And she goes, "Well, let's do 35." She took 5,000 off of my offer on a Facebook Live in a banana pocketed shirt. Okay. That is the seller I want to negotiate with.
Yep.
And then on wholesaling, do you want dumb money or smart money? I want the people that are buying off MLS to buy all of my deals, because they're used to paying more, and they probably are looking through it with a different vision than I have. They're like, hey, look, I can pay retail for a lot of stuff. I just need a little bit of equity because I'm going to keep my full-time job. I'm going to buy 5 houses a year, and whenever I retire, I'm going to have 100 homes completely paid for, right?
Yep. Plus, I take the depreciation against my W-2 and keep a little bit more money at the end of the year.
Exactly. Now, am I mad at that investor? Could I call that dumb money? I mean, some people would. I'm just going to say, look, they've got a different business model than I do. I've got to eat, and I've got to feed a lot of people. So I've got to have big margins. This guy don't. He's comfortable with his W-2 job. He enjoys it. He gets free time with his family. He doesn't care that if he's cash flow negative on these deals. A lot of time, he's just gonna get them paid for. Somebody else is buying him an asset, and he's going to run down the road with it. So it's a lot of different ways to skin an apple. And you can, I've listened to. I had to quit listening to podcasts because I'd hear a new way of investing and I'd want to try it because I'm an action taker.
Right. And
so I'm like, I gotta stop this. This is bad.
You got to go to podcast rehab.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'm over here, like we've got a lot of things on the line, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I found these things called zombie foreclosures. I'm about to go find some. They're like, "Nah, bro, we're trying to close on 32 units in a town in West Texas. You forget about that." Listen, have you heard about zombie foreclosures? Let me tell you, it just completely derails me. So, anyways, that's just a little bit more about me. I got a little bit of ADD. If you can't tell by this interview, by the end.
ADD is a superpower if channeled correctly. That is the way I look at it.
Me too.
But yes, shiny ball syndrome can be a distraction for anybody, whether you have ADD or not. And there's a lot of it out. There's just a lot of noise out there, and it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody last week, and I was like, "Look, man, you need to go into your podcast playing app and delete like 18 podcasts, right? And quit fucking listening to them because you're just overloading your brain with shit, and you're not actually taking action and dealing with the business that you've got to deal with." And it's true. I mean, we're in a strange time where like information is so readily available that some people won't even utilize it, even though they could find out anything they want at their fingertips. But other people, all they do is just drink down information, and they don't take it and then try and implement it before they take in more of it. And so it's a balancing act. You got to know when to kind of dial it back, take what you got, and run with it.
Dude, I was an information junkie at the beginning of this. Every drive, I listen to a lot of books now, but as far as the investment strategies, I love everyone equally. You know what I mean? I shit on a lot of them sometimes, but I still love them. Like, you know what I mean? It's not for me, but it works for a lot of people I know. But their cash situation's a little different. And that's, people see me, they're like, dude, you're shitting on gurus. Why are you shitting on gurus? There's a lot of gurus I love, and I love their business model, and I love what they bring to the table. Like, I love everything about it. But there's some, it's like, look, if you can't be transparent about what you're doing, if you can't show what you've got, is that somebody I really want to pay money to? It's like, look, I'll put a screenshot of my bank account up at any moment in time because it'll either motivate you or motivate me. You know what I mean? It's like, look, we ain't got but 70,000 in the bank. I know we need $500,000. That's motivation for me. Like, hey, look, that dude's got $1 million in the bank. He seems like a dumb laid off roughneck. That's what I am. So you too could have $1 million in the bank. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can take it however you want.
I've gone on super secret skip tracing missions and pulled Guru's mortgage information to see how much they actually owe on their houses.
And I don't even know their names. That's the funny thing about it. Like, a lot of people are like, are you talking about so and so? I'm like, I have no idea who that is. But if the shoe fits, wears it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just when it comes to things, I get a lot of people that reach out to me and say, look, you just put more information out for free than I got after I paid this dude $6,000. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know who that dude is, but I'm sorry that happened to you. But if you pump that same $6,000 back into this marketing, you should see results. If you want to learn how to negotiate, here's some good free information. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you can only work on what you can work on. A lot of people blame gurus after they pay them, but at the end of the day, I'll look at it and say, you didn't take any action with that information. You know what I mean? If I had that information in front of me whenever I started, I would have made my money back pretty quick. You know what I mean? So there's a lot into this,
Yeah, I've determined there's kind of two different types of people, because we have some education programs, obviously, and there's two types. There's types like you who you take the information and you immediately go and try and apply it and make money with it and make it work, right? Or multiple different things. In your case, sometimes you got to dial it back, right? So you're not doing too many things at one time. And then there's others that they listen to it, they learn it, they think about it, they overanalyze it. Maybe they try it a little bit of rejection or failure kind of halts them in their tracks and they don't continue forward. And they need to be more like the Corey Thompsons of the world that just keep fucking doing it and just keep going with it, because you're going to fail. Like you said, you can only change what you can change, and you're going to suck at this business a little bit at the beginning. That's just the reality of it. And you have to kind of accept it and power through it. And I think some people are just better at that than others, honestly.
Oh, it's the difference between the haves and the have-nots. It's like, look, how do you handle, anybody can handle fucking success. Success is easy. You get all the bitches, you get your name in the paper. You know what I mean? Like, what is hard about this? Like, you know what I mean? What is hard about this? It's the failures. It's moving into an RV and then your heater going out on your RV and you're laying there with your 3-year-old daughter, you know, thinking you're going to freeze to death because it's 20 degrees outside in Texas. That's probably just an average day for y'all. But, you know, we're like, literally freezing to death, and you're thinking about, how did I get myself in this situation, and what am I going to do tomorrow to get myself out of this situation? You know what I mean? And then taking that animosity that you've got because you're being, you know, really critical of yourself, and going and doing something with it. Like, oftentimes people, you know, I'm a big troll. Like, I'm a big troll on the internet a lot of times, and people think I'm being so serious. And I'm like, dude, I will troll you until if you keep responding to me, like you're just feeding me, and I'm taking that energy, and I'm just like a hurricane. I'm getting over warm water, and then I'm taking more action. You know what I mean? It's like I'm taking all your energy, and I'm shitting it out all over the other aspects of my business that I haven't been taking my own advice on. Right? I've been telling everybody else to do this, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, you're not even doing it. Go do it. Go do it. Show these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, you know, people don't understand that mindset, and I get it. That's okay. I'm not trying to get you, but you know, it's really easy. Like, I played high school football. My name was in the paper a bunch. I was always a little celebrity in my own hometown. Everybody always knew who I was from the time I was 16. So I got over that pretty quick. You know what I mean? But when times suck and nobody knows your name and nobody gives a fuck who you are, who are you in that moment? Because that's gonna define who you are when you know things get tough in your own business. You know, oftentimes whenever things are hard this morning before I jumped on this deal. Like, you know, we're moving pieces around, looking at it. I'm like, man, there's a lot of motherfuckers that would kill to be where I'm at today. Like, you know what I mean? They would straight up walk in and slap the shit out of their mom if you told them you could have what I have right now, and never take that for granted. You know what I mean? Never ever take that for granted, and go do and match that intensity that got you here today. Go do that again today, and everything will be all right tomorrow. So that's kind of my piece on it.
Yeah, well, that's just, I mean, ultimately, I think probably good ending words of advice, and just being an entrepreneurship, right? Taking that energy and just recreating it day after day after day, even when it can be a little bit overwhelming, and we'll call it challenging, when you're looking at, what the hell, how am I going to make this shit sandwich into something delicious today, right? That's basic. Oh, yeah. And that's business, and that's entrepreneurship, and that's definitely the real estate business, especially right now with, you know, where we're at in the cycle and just a lot of the challenges that are out there.
I want to give one more gold nugget, because
all right, drop
the very first time I talked to you, I hit you up for a hard money loan, even though I didn't know you, right? And it's like, oh shit, this dude's in here. Like, he's like, I pay him $20 a month religiously. Like, so do a lot of people I know. Maybe he'll loan some of that back to me. It didn't hurt your feelings that I asked, did it?
No, not at all. I thought it was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, like, so that was, you know,
that's why I asked you to be on this show, because I thought you were pretty damn funny with it. So.
I was like, look, everybody's so afraid of that word no, right? Like, when I was younger, I spent a lot of times at bars and I drank, and I would hit on women. You know, I'd walk up to the hottest girl in the bar and be like, "Say, girl, what's up?" And she'd be like, "Not today, shorty," and just palm me out of here, you know. But I didn't care, because I'm at the bar. It's a target-rich environment. There's a lot of other girls in here. I'm gonna find one eventually that's gonna dance. I'm gonna find one eventually that might want to go home. I'm gonna find one eventually that's gonna like what I got, right?
Shit, nowadays you don't even have to do that. There's plenty of apps you can just put yourself out there, and you don't have to. You don't even have to go fishing anymore. It's crazy. But
I got unafraid of the word no.
Right.
And so in this business, you're afraid of the word no, you're going to hear no a lot more than you're going to hear yes from motivated sellers, from lenders, from other investors. You're going to just get used to hearing no. Make it a goal every day to hear a lot of no's, because that means you're that much closer to a yes. I mean, maybe, I don't know if many people have been to the bar lately. I haven't, but it's where that mentality came from. People are like, where did that come from? Like, well, not from the greatest place, but
hey, there's lessons to be taken from the bar too. I hardly spend any time there myself anymore. I had to dial back my drinking tremendously with 2 kids and everything we got going on to virtually none. But there's a lot of lessons to be taken just from hey, that's a nice looking group of ladies over there. I'm gonna go talk to them, right?
That's it, because I mean, they're the most intimidating thing in the world to a young man, and at the end of the day, they just like the same things you like: music, food. They'll tell you no, but that means you're that much closer to a yes. Just keep asking, keep following up. The fortune's in the follow up. So
that's right. That is right. Well, hey man, we're broaching up on an hour here. I don't want to take any more of your time, but for those folks that are listening, what's the best way for them to connect to you? I know maybe I heard a little rumblings, and maybe you got a podcast you're going to be starting to put out, but I know you've got a great group that they can connect with you on, at least for the time being.
Roughneck to Real Estate Facebook group. We'd love to have more people in there. We don't take too much of that in there seriously. We clown in there with crystal methane a lot. We're not all. None of us use drugs, I don't think. But anyways, we have fun in there. We answer a lot of questions. We bring a lot of value. I do a lot of Facebook Lives in that group, showing people how to pull these lists, how to skip trace, how to do the ringless voicemail. I do that, a lot of stuff like that. I break down our deals in there, and I do want to come out with a podcast. I've hired somebody to make that happen, so we're going to start putting energy and effort towards that real soon, and do some interviews. I'm trying to decide what I want it to be like. I think I'm going to have a newbie on with me at all times, and kind of
I think you should just do Corey's show. Bring on a few interviews, but I'm telling you, after talking for the last hour here, your podcast is going to be a hit. Just let you run. Just get it. Just topic Corey's thoughts for the day.
I'm thinking that too, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a lot of gurus on if I keep shitting on them all the time. So,
let me tell you, when I first started and I took some shits on some, they're not real high and mighty on pushing your podcast out there.
It'll be all right. Experience. Yeah, another guy told me the other day, he's like, nobody's going to do business with you. And I was like, well, I guess I'll go fishing then. I don't know what I'll do with all this spare time I'll have if nobody will do business with me. I'll go kill something and eat it, and go catch something and eat it. That's just be what I'll do.
I think an hour with Corey would be a hit. So,
well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me on. Dude, this has been a real pleasure. I enjoy the app. Someday we'll need to jump on a phone call, not on camera, and see. I want to hear more about that story. I want to get to know that side. I'm going to have to dive in and go back to the early days of your podcast so I can catch up on how you got here.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to enlighten you on the whole world of app building and trademark infringement, of which we had to serve 2 people today, one of which is a giant real estate investing publication who took sponsorship dollars from a company that is massively infringing upon our trademark. So, there's some ugly side of it too, but we've come to realize that there's almost more value in our trademark than there is in our technology, crazy as that might be. So there you go.
Dude, I might need to go trademark some stuff. I don't even know.
Yeah, Roughneck Real Estate trademark. I got a good trademark attorney. I'll hook you up. So yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and let me know if I can help you out in any way.
Fantastic. Well, hey, everybody, go check out Roughneck to Real. Ask Corey to join the group, and hopefully you enjoy all the input that he puts in there, and keep an eye out for hopefully a podcast coming soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
What'd you guys think of that interview with Corey? Pretty damn good, huh? We got talking there. We went on for a little over an hour. Really great conversation, and we talked about a whole bunch of different stuff, but it was cool for me to just hear about the different types of businesses that you can build in different parts of the country, and the opportunities that are available down there in Texas are just crazy in terms of cash flow versus, you know, basically what you're paying for the asset. And it's just bananas, because here those numbers are just, they make absolutely 0 sense. In fact, they make less than 0 sense most of the time, or you're forced to, if you're going to build multifamily, you're forced to build higher dollar type multifamily, whereas down there you can take and kind of reposition existing construction multifamily that's just been kind of left out to pasture, we'll say, which is something that they've been doing really, really well at. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. I will say there was one underlying theme within the interview, and that was focus. And focus is what has made Corey successful, as well as I'm sure his business partners. And so this week's closing success quote is by none other than Mr. Bruce Lee himself. And the quote is, "The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus." I like that quote. Hope you guys liked it too. I'll see you all on next week's show.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. Full-time father, full-time artist. Ex-guard, he said grind harder, learn from every time you ever fail. If it never failed, just grind smarter. Iron sharpen, you the dag on they hindquarters, and they all acting. Rap game, I'm a pallbearer. Kill may get a call after. First look, it was all laughter. Kevin Gates, no small matter, made men believe when they didn't believe. Dive in the crowd, no safety holders. Got in the booth, no safety on it. Aiming, I shoot for the stars. Got the award, I ain't win no awards. Only meaning one thing, don't get tired, I go hard. I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. The woman I love on an air mattress. We share a car, my hair never couldn't afford flights, no air travel. Still Rice Krispies like sand gravel. Walking testament of what can happen the moment you follow your heart. Keeping the faith even when it get dark. They say give up as I tell them get lost. 6 weeks ago I just purchased a farm, most likely the one that you cannot afford. Right foot on the gas, Balenciaga be accelerating, I'm doing the dance. Chick that I'm with, started be doing her shit, and it's okay to say that she bad. Look to the right and I give her a glance. Be no great. I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired.
Only meaning one thing, don't get tired, I go hard. Don't play with the hustle, you eat or you starve. Don't mimic, pretend it's just be who you are. I ain't never changed, been like this from the start. Only meaning one thing, don't get tired, I go hard. Don't play with the hustle, you eat or you starve. Don't mimic, pretend it's just be who you are.